Let's take a break from learning individual sounds in English and talk instead today about one of the more challenging aspects of English grammar: articles. Articles are some of the most common words in English, yet they're also some of the words that are most difficult for non-native English speakers to use properly. This is frequently quite noticeable in both written and spoken English. There are only 3 articles that we use in English, and they are further broken down into 2 other categories: definite and indefinite articles. The definite article is the word the, and the indefinite articles are the words a and an. These words may seem small and insignificant, but to an English speaker, they are extremely important in the structure of sentences. Let's talk about indefinite articles first. A and an are essentially 2 versions of the same word. They are used with a noun to refer to something general rather than specific. Once you're familiar with when to use the indefinite article, it becomes easy to choose between whether you want to use a or an. Essentially, a is used with any noun that starts with a consonant sound at the beginning of the word, and an is used with any noun that begins with a vowel sound at the beginning of a word. This works for both the nouns that the a or an is describing, as well as for the adjectives that can sometimes come before a noun. That means that the rule stays the same, even if you're using a different word form after the a or an. Nice, right? You can think about this like flow. Many languages flow better than English. However, even in English, we like to hear the flow of movement from consonant to vowel. So if you think about the word a being a vowel, it makes sense that the following sound should be a consonant. And if you think about the word an ending with a consonant sound, it makes sense that the next sound should be a vowel. The good news is that for once there are actually very few exceptions to this rule. If you think about it closely, the exceptions aren't even really exceptions at all. For example, the letter H can sometimes be silent, and this can mean that it sounds a little bit like a vowel. For example, in the word hour. Because we don't hear the H sound, even though it is a consonant being written, we would say an hour. However, if you do hear the H sound, for example, horse, you would use the word a, because now it's a consonant sound that follows. A horse. Essentially, you can just think of it like alternating between consonants and vowels if you ever get confused. So just think about what sound comes next, and the opposite sound is what should come first. An important thing to remember is that indefinite articles can only ever be used with a singular noun. That means that for things that are uncountable, such as air, water, or information, we can never use an indefinite article because we don't know how many there are. Basically what this means is if we know that there's one of something, we can use a or an. It kind of acts like the word one. So you can think about it like one of something. If there's more than one, we can't use the word one anymore. Let's look at some examples. An orange. A cat. A ball. A house. An honest man. A flower. An hour. a blanket, a chair, an intelligent girl, an igloo, a butterfly, a monkey, a banana. Now that we know the difference between the indefinite articles a and an, it's time to look at the definite article, the. Now that we know the difference between a and an, it's time for us to look at the definite article, the. The definite article is known as definite because the speaker knows what they are speaking about. They also assume that the listener knows what they are speaking about. However, this can get a little bit tricky because we can use the definite article with words that are singular, plural, and also uncountable. There are some words that will always use the definite article because of their uniqueness. For example, the sun, the moon, or a sports team like the Vancouver Canucks. There is only one of these things, and so we will always use the word the with it because we can assume that both the speaker and listener know what they are speaking about. However, we can also use definite articles once the item being spoken about has already been introduced. For example, I can tell you, I saw a red bird on my walk yesterday. The red bird was singing. Notice the change in article. In the first sentence, I was introducing the idea of seeing a red bird. However, in the next sentence, I can assume that now you understand there is a specific bird that I am talking about. So I switch to using the word the. The bird was singing. Now that we have an idea of when to use the definite article, let's look at some examples. The dogs, the restaurant, the water, the children, the wedding, the ball, the man, the place, the puzzle, the moon, the planets, the lion, the zoo, the books, the spaceship. Just like with indefinite articles, you can use the definite article even if you're adding an extra word like an adjective in between the definite article and the noun. For example, I can say the water or the clear water. As you can see, this works with uncountable nouns as well as countable nouns. However, that doesn't mean that we have to use the word the. There are a few exceptions to things, of course, where we don't actually need to use an article at all. Often these are related to geography. I will give you some examples of when we do not use an article. Number 1, most country or territory names. For example, Canada or India. Number 2, cities, towns, state names, or street names. For example, Vancouver, Beijing, Minnesota, or even Main Street. Number 3, names of individual lakes, bays, mountains, or islands. For example, Vancouver Island or Easter Island, Mount Everest, Lake Bannock, or Lake Ontario. Number 4, names of continents. For example, North America or Asia. As you're probably well aware, one of the biggest challenges for ESL learners is trying to decide which article, if any, to use. Let's look at some clues for how we can know when we should be using an article in a sentence. Number 1, articles and possessive pronouns can never be used together. That's because they both identify something specific. Just to remind you, a possessive pronoun is a word like my, his, hers, or theirs. Because we use one or the other in sentences, it's okay to hear either one, and depending on context, either one may be correct, but you can never put them together. For example, it would sound very wrong to a native English speaker to hear the sentence, put his shirt down. However, I could accurately say both put the shirt down or put his shirt down, depending on the context. The second rule is that we omit articles from certain situations. In these cases, the article may be implied, however, it is unspoken. The first situation that we can do this with is when we are dealing with an idea that is abstract. For example, I can say, innovation is important for a country's success. Note that I don't say the innovation. The second rule is that we omit the article when talking about a language or a nationality. However, we can't do this if those words are being used as an adjective. For example, he is learning Spanish in school. We don't use an article in this case. However, if we say he comes from a Spanish background, now Spanish is being used as an adjective and we do need the article. The third rule is that academic subjects and sports do not require an article. For example, math is my favorite subject, or we played soccer today. Phew, that is a lot of information. I have to point out that one of the best ways to learn how to use articles is just by becoming familiar enough with a language that you learn when to use them or not use them correctly. Why not spend some time practicing English by reading? If you enjoy reading, a very popular book in English is called Harry Potter. I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but let's just say that it's about a very unusual boy who needs to learn some new skills. Since it's a series, you can have hours and hours of reading time with the series, and trust me when I say that it's very engaging once you get started. If you don't have time to start reading a book series right now, you can always start by checking out my blog and practicing reading with that. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye!